We're actually going to try out a new show here. I don't know if I
That one.
coming over here.
This one.
Hey,
this one.
hey.
We got two. We got dose.
Hey, no, we're good. So basically what we're going to be doing this morning, we're going to be doing it leading up to IPL 5. 15 teams already qualified, actually 14 teams, Korean qualifiers, ending in like a week. And we're going to be taking a look at each of these teams, look at some of their old matches, and just, you know, chit-chat about them. I'm looking forward to it. James here with Buddy, Trevor, and AJ. Whole gang. It's going to be fun.
But I think to kick things off, though, we're going to be looking at M5 first, right out. And we have a match that they played during our Elites tournament versus Curse.EU. And a lot of interesting stuff happening. You have some different picks from Curse.EU that you don't normally see. And you also see M5 play into late game, which is also something you don't see a whole lot of.
Yeah, M5 is kind of a team that we see kind of pushing the meta for League of Legends. We've seen a lot of strategies come out of them that haven't really happened before. So seeing the strategy that we're going to see here today is just one example of how they kind of push that. And we want to see even more of that moving into IPL 5. So it's going to be a good little flavor for what we're going to see in the future.
Yep.
M5 is from Russia.
Yes, they are.
That's Buddy's,
that is true.
Buddy's contribution.
That is true.
Coffee break time.
Yeah, we're good.
You know what? Why don't we go ahead and
Yeah,
let's jump to picks and bans?
Dude, I'm still disturbed. I'm still disturbed. I'm the only one with an IGN mug. It's kind of weird. I need one.
I stole this one out of the sink 5 minutes ago.
Are you serious?
That
And
was
it's a
someone's
lefty mug.
watched it.
Well, it's a lefty mug, so there you go. That's what you. Yeah.
Everyone else has righty mugs.
Oh, yeah,
I got a
that's weird.
lefty. I got a lefty. All right, and that's Alex Itch.
That is Alex Itch. I mean, we did an
Let's go
interview.
ahead and,
we had an interview with Alex during the season 2 playoffs. Actually, James was actually the one running that interview. I don't. What did he actually talk about mostly in that interview?
his girlfriend.
Yeah, he was a cool guy all
Girlfriend, now
around.
wife.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did
Oh, yeah,
say
wife.
he met his wife through League of Legends, which is awesome. Like that's really cool. So he they started off and she had messaged him. She was kind of a fan, and they just started talking. It was a long courting period, and they got married.
Yeah.
I have an ex-girlfriend I met on J-Date.
Oof.
She found out I wasn't Jewish.
Yeah.
Womp
Womp womp.
Do
Womp,
we,
womp.
do we need a drum roll for this?
Let's run a piece of that interview footage.
Yeah, let's take a look.
It was LoL. She said something like, edit me in Contact, it is Russian Facebook, and said something like, good job at, I think it was Hanover. So, and after that, like in 2 weeks, I decided to type to her, and so our relationship started like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good old.
I'm gonna assume that was relevant. The
Yeah.
best part about the B-roll time is we get to all just make out on the couch, and no one knows.
Yeah, we actually don't have audio for that. Did you just smell your breath for the makeout time?
No, I covered my mouth because
okay.
I want to make sure that the herpes that James
Okay.
Okay.
Because it travels by air.
So
As
the,
we all know, yeah.
Air herpes.
Air herpes.
Well, let's talk about the picks and bans.
Buddy would know a lot about
I want to get away from the herpes. Let's get away from the herpes.
Let's get away from herpes.
just gotta
My
get
whole
away.
life I've
You
been trying to get
can't
away from
get
the
away
herpes.
Yeah,
Buddy.
let's yeah.
Can't run away. All right, so what's going on? We got a Shin up there.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
The Kale actually for Curse, we had seen them run Kale in the past. That was a while ago though. I mean, top lane Kale was really popular, and we saw support Kale some, but I think they are running at top lane. It'll be Anguish in the top lane running that Kale.
Yeah, this is when Curse was still running the Ashe Nunu lane down bot, and this is also when Zinnik and Slepper were still with the team. So this is not. It's still only like a few months ago. It seems like forever when all these teams have changes up in their lineup. But also look at this, Heimerdinger.
Oh yeah, that's right. They have a sub. So Moopsy is subbing in for Extinct. It's kind of weird because Extinct is really a big part of the team, and I remember at that point in time he was. They had just done like the Curse Invitational in San Francisco. We went down there.
Yes.
we did. And they actually, I don't remember, they didn't do that well. So
No.
no, neither of the EU teams did very
Yeah,
well.
because it was them and Teamless, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, so it was who would become Curse.EU. They had Teamless, TSM, and TSM Evo.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Tell me about
And
choosing-
Aftermove Bear. Sorry, no, you're good.
choosing an Ashe. That's a string. I mean, I didn't hear that she was that strong. Did they nerf her since this?
Well, she's been nerfed so many times because there was like when the game first started, she was just ridiculously strong because her ultimate.
Yeah.
You know, you have that long range initiation. She has a lot of kiting power and stuff. She has less damage than other ADs, but her damage, I mean, her utility is ridiculous to make up for it.
Yeah.
So you're using it for the initiation, for the kiting. They kind of have a strong objective control team with the Heimer. That's kind of what you're looking for with the Heimerdinger, is to control buffs, control dragon. You have the minions to take care of it. What does he say?
Yeah, and with Ashe, you don't have as much escape ability, but you do have the ability to slow down the enemy AD lane, so that gives it a lot of flexibility. Throwing Nunu into the mix it helps speed things up and get that extra speed. Kale there as well with the ultimate, so you can get out of a tricky situation if you really need to. So the entire team is kind of revolving around the damage that Ashe can put out, but then like you're talking about the buff control and the objective control with Heimerdinger, which we're going to see a couple times in this game here.
Yeah.
Definitely a few treating plays going to be coming out in just a little bit.
We've talked about Curse a lot, but let's.
That's
get
right.
to-
We're
let's get to
here
the
about
Russians.
M5.
We're here about
Let's go
M5.
over
We're here about
M5.
M5.
We're going to set up their opponents so that it's
Yeah.
actually a
Right,
big
so
deal
it's-
when they take them down.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's
Otherwise, it's not that impressive.
So it's Karthus in mid, he's only going to be looking to farm. You got Udyr in the jungle too, which is even a few months ago, was a jungler we weren't seeing a whole lot of. But there's still like quite a bit of synergy. This is Ezreal before his nerfs. Was this Sona before her nerfs too? I can't remember.
Yeah, no, this is
Yeah.
before any of those nerfs came in. I think it's interesting. We've seen M5 play Curse a couple of times recently. Diamond Prox is basically a god.
Basic. He's basically a god.
Basically.
He
Missing
is.
a few key aspects.
And-
Immortality.
Right.
Yeah. Thunder, one lightning.
Thun-
Thunder and lightning.
That depends on the
Well,
guy.
That's
well,
not
I
a
mean,
precursor
it's
of a god.
well.
Thunder and lightning. That's one
I would
god.
imagine so.
That's
I would
one,
imagine
maybe
so.
two deities at best.
But
Sorry.
no, I'm sitting there and I'm like imagining Diamond Prox and elixirs like battling in the heavens, and
What are they wearing?
I was
What are they wearing when they're battling in the heavens?
in my dreams when
Yeah.
they're battling
Yeah.
in the heavens.
Correct answer is
Cod
nothing.
pieces.
Cod piece.
I wasn't sure who they'd be battling against.
Sexiest word
I
of the
was
Middle
trying-
Ages, codpiece.
I was trying to think who that would be, but Diamond Prox Lee Sin, we've seen recently.
So we're going to runes here. Sorry, I was
Oh,
just
no, that's
letting.
cool.
Yeah, and we cannot read them
Yeah,
from here.
we're like watching this from a TV. It's like the Super
Yeah.
Bowl for us.
Yeah.
Exactly like the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Diamond Prox, I think it's funny. I was looking at some old gameplay of like them like 6 months ago, and Diamond Prox playing Lee Sin, and you look like 6 months ago, and he kind of plays him like a standard jungler. He's just running around clearing his own minions. He'll gank occasionally, but nothing really that special. But you look at him now, and it's like this wild new jungling style. I mean, he's fantastic. The joke is, what is Diamond Prox's starting jungling route? And it's the enemy jungle. And he's just like, he's so aggressive. We've seen him take 4 minutes level 4 dragon. So level 4 dragon, buddy, if you can imagine it.
I
just,
can't imagine. I
you
can't,
know, explosions
I'm terrible
going
at the
off.
game.
That number's way too high for him.
That's way too low. I do 12-minute dragons. I think I get into. No, I don't even need 20-minute dragons. Who am I kidding?
Wait, there
Nobody.
was a point in time, like about a year ago, I think, where actually going to dragon was a part of your normal jungling route.
Wow.
Then they had to introduce an attack speed slow on all the dragon's attacks, just so people can't solo it.
Well, it's also getting to the point where you need to focus a little bit more on the lane control. So
Right.
affecting a top lane and a mid lane with a single gank can completely change how that dynamic is going down.
That was actually, I remember no one was good at jungling at that point in time. Like compared to now, it's incredible like how much the game's grown. And that was so painful. You had to get a ward down at around 4 minutes onto the dragon, because otherwise you're gonna lose your dragon.
Yeah.
Like Warwick would, level 4 dragon consistently. You'd have these champions that Trundle could level 5 dragon. You just get a Madred's Claw, and it was just insane. They can still do it early, but it was easy. It was just something they would do.
Yeah, it was like, because I remember like Warwick was the first jungler I learned.
Yep.
And
I still use him.
He's still good. Like I still like if they ever pick like if I have a team that picks like Katarina or something, I still have a tendency to do it. But yeah, the worst part is like Warwick. If you don't know how to Warwick and they were going for dragon at that time, he had so much regen on him. He had so much sustain on him that he could take it and still be at like 75% health. You can still do it. You can still do it early, but now
he's in a position where he can do something similar as well.
Yeah.
So having that potential where you can go into the enemy jungle, you can go for ganks, or you can just go for the objectives on your own, opens up a lot of opportunities for Diamond Procs in the game that we're about to watch. But I also want to focus a little bit on the top lane. We see that Genja's going, or not Genja, excuse me, Darion's going for Shen here, and it's a champion that we see a lot out of him in the past, but recently he's been focusing on a little bit more of the newer champions. So moving into IPL 5, we wouldn't be too surprised to see a lot of Jace play coming out of him if it doesn't get nerfed too hard. And then also a lot of Kha'Zix play. He's been playing on a lot on the online server. So pulling out those more AD heavy champions is going to be interesting to see how M5 kind of builds their lineup around that.
Well, he always he tends to go tanky with those top lane champions. We've seen like he'll skip gold pretends sometimes and rush like Warmogs or Sunfire on Shen because he really likes to dive into the backline, put a lot of pressure on the AD carry to in team fights, and so they. Darion's pressure on the backline in team fights, it kind of makes the enemy team split. Like they become kind of disorganized. That's when you're supposed to walk up as Blitzcrank and knock Darion away.
That's actually when I'll walk up as Blitzcrank and miss a grab and then run the wrong way. Somebody tells me to ward, I start crying. Continue. I really did like that skin though, that Mars Attack skin. That was a good addition.
I think I remember we were going in and there was just like
Moopsie's coming in.
It's like you don't get to see Heimerdinger often, let alone in him him in his skin. It was like just brains. It's all just he's
Just
all brains.
massive intelligence.
He's all brain.
If you had to give it a color, what color would you give it?
Blue, hyper intelligent shade of blue, definitely.
Wins the tickets.
We should have put that on the TriCaster. We needed to get footage of that.
Yesterday I won a costume contest, and I literally I randomed a costume. I just let the timer run down till Halloween and just randomed a costume.
I didn't even know you could do that in the store.
He's
just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Start with less gold.
It's fine.
We'll put it on. Check out the IG and Facebook. I think I'm on there as a fat blue guy. Anyway, let's get back. We're concentrating a lot on Curse right now. But okay, teach me about M5 at this time period.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting right off the bat. Darion, he just kind of walks forward a little bit to keep an eye on where the enemy team's going. Figure out the jungling route, and so he knows that Xin took the Wraiths, but he didn't actually see if he went for blue or red right now, so he's probably going to play a little bit defensively. Kayle can be pretty aggressive in that matchup, but I don't know, we'll see. I think a lot of M5, it comes down to elixirs and Dynaprox, like the mid and jungle combination. They're really aggressive together, and they look to put a lot of pressure on the enemy team, but because elixirs is going with that late game Karthus, that's kind of a passive play. Like we might not see as much early aggression out of M5.
Yeah, their lineup for this particular game is definitely geared towards that late game engagement.
Super late game,
With the Shen for the split pushing, they've got a gear to try to keep things, keep the enemy jungler as low as possible as they move into the mid game. And then Sona there for her ultimate when they do get into those final 5v5 engagements. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes down, if they can even get to that point. If they get to the mid game and they're not really far behind, they should have a pretty good chance in the late game. But I wouldn't be surprised if Curse.EU also keeps it very close throughout this entire game.
Oh man, look, Dude's actually getting caught out here. Just leading everyone onto like a grand chase. Flash out. Still gets slow, but he's still got the bear stance. He can still get away from this.
No,
but there's so much.
I'm saying no.
I'm saying he's done.
And first blood.
There's so much time expended just to take him out, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. He did leave a pretty good chase to the jungle, so even though he knew he was going to be taken down, that left the mid and top lane a pretty decent chunk of time to just continue to farm and counteract that a little bit. And like you were talking about the buffs, they didn't actually add any buffs to the Curse.EU team.
Right. Yeah, but it's a refresh for Xin. It's letting him snowball. Xin can snowball really early on, so that's actually going to put a lot of pressure on Alex. And I don't know, that's kind of where we're going to see how M5 kind of responds, because that's a early advantage. It doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a pretty big early advantage to get Xin kind of snowballing that way. So that's going to be kind of interesting.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. But just notice top lane real quick, though, because there's so much time expended. Darion's actually, if you look at the minimap, he's actually frozen the lane, up to his own tower. So he's getting just a massive farm advantage just from that one chase.
Watch Ghost Pepper. That's how you specifically support, buddy.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna ask a question actually. Ezreal. Now that we switched to top lane, at this time, was he considered, like, there's a lot of contention in the community about, you know, him always being Ezreal OP, and then he just got nerfed, and he's still OP, and then got nerfed. At this point in time, were people saying that?
Yeah,
already?
he was still really strong right now. Like this is like right about the height of Ezreal's dominance, I guess you would say.
This was the beginning of August, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a little bit after Pulsefire Ezreal came out, and everyone just started playing it and figuring out exactly what they could do with it.
Yeah.
He wasn't the #1 AD carry at that point. It was a little bit more with Graves, at least in the Korean scene. Like he's still an extremely strong AD carry. You can do a lot with him. Loses the support there, but is able to pick up the kill. Just things that you normally wouldn't be able to stay in an engagement like that. Other ADs would have had to leave there. He was able to stick around and pick up that final kill, so it was a 1-for-1 trade, not that big of a deal.
Well, it's to their advantage, and it's because of the mobility of Ezreal. Losing your support for the enemy AD is always to their advantage, and I don't know, if Ezreal gets off to a good start, he can try and snowball that lane.
So what was, I mean, it seemed like Gosu could get out there, but stayed in just to get that final,
yeah, I mean, he wanted to guarantee that they were going to get the kill, and he knew he was kind of trading, so it was really just a good call from him. This is actually kind of interesting, though, because this is something that we've seen a lot from M5, is, leaving the top lane alone a little bit. Darian's somewhat on an island. Most teams kind of do that. M5 really does it, but Diamond, he's always, keeping an eye around the map and always following the enemy jungler really well. So even though Darian went down, Diamond was, there for kind of the response, to back him up.
Yeah, and that response kept it at an even trade there, which is exactly what they're looking to do. Like we were talking about before, Darian was able to freeze the lane close to his tower, so that gave him a little bit of extra farm time, at least safe farm time as well. So if you take that and then just continue trading from then on, it's a really good way of moving into the mid game without falling too far behind, especially since they lost first blood.
And right here, Gosu Pepper in the bottom lane, he just saw Nunu had just left the lane, and so right when he left the lane, going forward for the really aggressive harass onto Ashe, just completely zoner, and that's really something you can do against Ashe. She's kind of a weak AD in that respect, but that's just the Sona harass lane. I mean, it's a really nasty lane.
And Meluna's just spending so much time here in top lane too. He's just trying to camp out the Shen, but they're not going to get as much success as they used to. And this is strange too. We've seen this a little bit from M5. They like those elixirs. They like those elixirs early.
Yeah, well, that's when you're going to get the most effect out of the elixirs. It is a pretty decent investment because you're holding off getting an actual item. But if you can do something over that 4 minutes of activation time, that can be a complete game changer, especially if you're able to turn that into a dragon. It will cancel out completely for an elixir on every single player of your team.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen red elixirs on Darian. We've seen quite a few blue elixirs on Alex at times too, very early on, and I think they're like one of the only few pro teams that actually buy them.
Yeah, I mean, everyone will buy them. Everyone will buy them as the game, later in the game.
Right.
You're right.
But yeah, early.
For those early elixirs, that is unusual. I think it's interesting how Darian, he can fall behind in the top lane, but it doesn't really impact him that much. I mean, Shen's, not going to be that big of a deal if he falls behind, but we've seen him play like Xin Zhao in the top lane, and he would just be massively behind, thousands of gold in debt basically, and I don't know, he goes, because he rushes straight for those tank items, as opposed to going for gold pretends usually. I don't know, it just allows him to be tanky enough to do what he wants to do, which is, he's not looking to do damage, he's just looking to get in the face of the AD and shut them down.
So more question time. All right, so
more question time.
I know that I'm turning
time.
this into teaching Buddy about M5, but so with the pressure of Nunu, how does that change the dynamic? And also another question is, Moscow 5 has already won one game at this point in this, and so I know that you guys aren't probably going to remember exactly what the matchup was before this, but
I think it was just Nick and you, AJ.
Yeah,
This was, I can't remember. I remember Curse. I think Curse actually played a little bit more standard the previous game, because I mean, let's face it. I mean, this is Curse's team here is slightly trolly.
Really?
A little bit, because I think this was after KL's popularity stint. Heimerdinger, I mean, it's Heimerdinger. You don't see him in competitive play unless you have a certain MO here, and I think Curse is this is like a trial run of some sort of push comp, I think.
Well, and I think you're right that they probably started off kind of standard, but because Moopsy's a sub, game one, probably didn't go too well. They're like, wow, M5 just kicked our ass. So they switch up and they're like, all right, well, let's run something a little bit more unusual. They have a really good objective team if they can force those, and they can also hold the front line in fights really well, and that's kind of what they're going to look to do. But already M5 actually grouping up and able to force them off of the dragon, and that's kind of surprising considering that Curse's strength should be in that dragon control, but you see they all kind of group together as a team and are able to put on that aggression.
Well, their strength is in dragon control against a team that's not M5, but when you have Gosu Pepper on Sona going against you, he's already got, I believe, 2 kills in this game. Very aggressive Sona, able to pull off incredible crescendos.
Oh, wow.
And not quite able to save Karthus there, but it didn't matter. They were able to
He's got a
turn
double.
2 kills. So it's just the fact that M5 is always able to get into situations where, at the worst case, they're trading is really good for them overall. Like, that's something that M5 has always done well, is that they're gonna set up something that over the long run they're gonna give a benefit over the enemy team, and that just over and over and over again gives them so much advantage, which is why we see them in these title positions for tournament after tournament.
One thing that I think is interesting is a lot of times in the mid game you see how aggressive they are in like the enemy jungle, but their positioning in fights, they kind of poke in and out of fights. So the fights, they can last really long times. They're just they're pulling, they're tugging at their opponent's strings to try and pull them slightly out of position. And then they can, dive in. And so you see these fights with like Zillion and Olaf or whatnot, where it's just like 2-minute long fights with M5, and I don't know, they just somehow make it work in the end. Like, they might be behind in the beginning, but they just keep on poking and prodding until they find their enemy's weaknesses.
And also, you really also don't see a whole lot of teams grouping up as a full, grouping up like that in front of Dragon like that early. Same thing with the Curse on this end too. I mean, you don't usually see, it's kind of unusual really on both ends. But usually only see like 3-man engages, maybe sometimes even 4-man engage on a Dragon. Just leave your top layer to their own devices, but everyone's here, and that's actually a pretty quick snipe off on Genja too.
Well, I think Curse, they realized that they want to get an early advantage against M5, and then Kale already had the top lane, so because the top lane was down, it's allowing them to try and snowball it into other lanes.
Do you already, I mean, I know that you guys know when this game, you guys have cast it, but do you know the outcome of this game already?
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I know. I'm assuming that M5 won it, but
that's fun. Well, or else why would we have chosen it?
Right.
We're gonna show the one time they didn't win it.
Yeah.
Be interesting.
Pick out their weaknesses.
Tune in next time. We're gonna be doing a spotlight on TSM, and they're not even gonna be in the game.
Yeah, and talking about some of their recent defeats, actually, they played in the World Championships, did insanely well. But that was actually the first time they played outside of European soil, I believe.
I can't remember. I mean, you're right.
First time in American soil, at least. IPL 5 is going to be the second.
Yeah,
and they did not perform as well as you'd normally see. They fell to TPA, who, no surprise, of course, they ended up taking the tournament, so that's not a bad indicator for them. But they're going to be playing up against potentially TPA and IPL 5 as well. So the fact that they maybe are not the best travelers might have a factor into how we actually see them play in the tournament. Do you guys have any thoughts about how that's going to go down?
Well, none of the European teams have really traveled that much. There hasn't been a big international competition. I mean,
CLG.EU's already gone to Korea. They've gone to Taiwan.
Outside of Korea recently, but that's like the first time ever. NA teams, they've been going to Europe, but
that's true.
European teams haven't been coming to the NA. It's just it hasn't been worth it financially, and there haven't been enough international tournaments. It's really been broken for a long time. And I think that's also why this year everyone was kind of surprised, seeing how the teams compare, because it's like, wow, TPA, we've only seen before the Season 2 championships. I think TPA had only done an international tournament one time and they lost. They were terrible.
Yeah, it was online. It was it a CSN?
Oh, that's right. It was online. I remember World Elite was on CSN. I remember doing a tournament with them.
Well, World Elite's been playing a lot more stuff just because they've had.
Right.
They're an esports franchise that's been around for a long period of time, so they got a lot of connections into ESL and some of the other European tournaments as well as the American ones.
And then they're good for game for anything. It's like just tell us when to play. 4 a.m. our time. Yeah, F it, we'll do it. Let's go. Like they're ready. They're ready to play at any time, anywhere, any place.
So roster changes have been affecting everybody since at least I started working here.
Yeah.
Except in 5. So have they had any roster changes since this point, or slightly before?
No.
They've considered it, but no, not really. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't
they've been
know.
with the M5 organization, Moscow 5, for almost a year now, maybe a little bit more. Before that, they were Team Empire.
Yeah, they were.
And they've been the same
Empire
roster
Union.
for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So their owner
Went to jail.
which just means that you know, you got the BA Russian mafia ties. And
I remember this. Yeah. Oh god, it was because I remember we were in the office, we were researching something for, I think, LoL Update, and it was like money laundering or something.
I don't know. We ended up saying
It was something crazy with like credit card fraud.
we ended up saying it looked like a snuff film or something like that. That video.
Oh, the apology video.
Apology video.
Yeah.
Looked like a snuff film. But you know, talking to them, they all seemed like you know, normal guys, and you don't really get that a lot. Like Dyrus doesn't seem like a normal dude. You know, he doesn't seem like a normal dude to me. I mean, I only.
I think it's just
TSM
the
as
language
reference.
barrier.
Yeah.
Like
Probably is.
if you could speak Russian, you'd be like, wow, these M5 guys, they're not normal
They're
dudes.
nerds.
Well, they also have some pretty strong personalities on their team too. There's been some conflicts they've had in their past that they've learned from and definitely grown as a team because of. But when you put these guys on the internet and you're telling them essentially you have to go beat these other guys for your living, you must be better than them. There's going to be a lot of tensions that come up, and you're not always going to be in a situation that's going to give you the opportunity to act chivalrous. Can't speak chivalrous.
Yeah.
Chivalrously?
I can't do it.
Sure.
I can't pronounce the word. It's just the
They've actually,
defect.
But that's-
M5 in particular, they've been training since they were little kids. They were brought up before League of Legends even existed. They
knew it was gonna
expected, they
happen.
knew in the future
There
there would
would
be
be video
cyber
games.
athletes, and they had them, you know, the weak,
They had their little fingers moving.
right, their
These
little fingers, and the
their
weak
little
would get their
eggs.
fingers broken, and the strong would move on to become great esports warriors.
And they'd throw the weak ones to the trolls.
I do.
This is getting really bad.
I do.
not
Off in
good.
Siberia, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do like
the
the
Siberian
point
trolls.
that you made. Those, like, you know, this is your objective. You go in and you beat this other team because that's your living. And they made those comments at Worlds. It comes about like the NA teams, about their work ethic and things like that. Because then you take, like, you know, the European teams and the Asian teams, like, okay, here's another team. You beat them. This is your living. Then you take a look at the NA teams. It's like, here's another team. It's whatever. You can just
You beat
go
them,
home
then
and
go party
stream.
afterwards.
You beat them, we're gonna drink with you.
If you beat them, we can party afterwards. If you lose, we'll party
We're
afterwards.
gonna party afterwards in a more somber note, but we're definitely gonna party afterwards.
Right.
Right. Right. One of our camera operators, Paul, and I have gone and visited Curse. We made that Life is Good on Team Curse video.
Oh yeah.
And he's experienced firsthand the partying life of the video gamers.
the video game debauchery and.
By the way, man,
Paul, you can come on camera, just like walk through.
You can come hang out and watch us with
Yeah.
us, or you can, you know, go drink coffee or whatever. During the game, we can just leave it on the 4-shot if you want to, man. For real.
You good?
We appreciate you, Paul.
He's having fun.
Give it up for Paul, everybody. Give it up for
Yeah.
Paul. Yeah, Paul.
Seriously, just
He's,
dance.
he's
watch
here
him
all week.
dance.
He's here all week. Oh,
They
No,
just switched
I
to
can
two
give the
shots.
thumbs up. I
Switch
can give
to
the
two
thumbs up
shots.
because we changed
Switch
over.
cameras.
Just give the thumbs up. Give the thumbs up.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
We're good.
all right, talk to me
And
about
now
more
he's
about the
crushing
game.
my
So,
head.
is this the first dragon that M5 has done?
This is
No,
now going to be the
they're-
second
well,
one, and Curse is actually
Curse
getting
got
control
first.
of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like they were designing their strategy around, they are actually getting the dragon control. But M5, on the other hand, is still doing decently well. They've got a kill advantage because they're grouping up a little bit better. And like we were talking about before, that's kind of what they're known to do. They're very agile, able to move around and find the weakness of the opponent and go for it. They're gonna let the dragon go to a team composition like Curse has in this game. It's not something that will lose them the game straight out. So it's really
Well,
not that big.
they
of a deal.
actually, because of the Karthus, the damage that it has, they were able to force that dragon. So they were able to get, M5 was able to get that one. So it's even, it's 1-to-1 with dragons. I think it's interesting though that this game, a lot of times M5, they look to invade as a team on buffs a lot early on. But that hasn't been the case this game because a lot of it's Karthus. You know, it's a passive global. Oh, I hope this doesn't go too long. I'm
Yeah, we
imagining-
just fast forward through
yeah,
the pause.
but M5 they have because Karthus is more passive. You know, the global from Karthus and Shen gives them that map control. They haven't been really looking for being as aggressive with invasion, because Karthus isn't very good in the jungle early levels. He really needs to get that farm going.
What would you guys were talking about objective control with Curse? What would an engagement look like? With M5 coming out on top when Curse is already set up in a defensive position while taking an objective, like that the Heimerdinger around Dragon. What effect would that have?
Well,
because he has those turrets and stuff.
So Curse, they have a team that's really good at kiting, and they can also Nunu can provide the separation with his ultimate, but then they also can kite with Ashe. Heimerdinger. So M5, they kind of need to just bully out their opponents. They don't really have the best long-range initiation when you compare with Curse, but they do have the mobility advantage from Sona, so they can try and chase them down, get a Sona ultimate or get a Karthus wall. But I don't know, really they kind of need to allow Curse to come to them to fights. So Karthus, it will be kind of difficult for Karthus to get into the back line unless he has to use a flash to get in. So really M5, I think right now they're happy with farming, but then they want to take advantage of tight spaces so that they can get Karthus into the middle of the team, and then just allow Curse to kind of have to fight them.
So right now it doesn't look very good for M5. I mean, just from a layman's. I mean, but they have they have.
It's the 4 towers. It's the 4 towers that Curse has right now, which is exactly the difference in gold. So otherwise, other than those 4 towers, the game's actually been bang on even.
Neck and neck for kills, engagement wise. And that's, I mean, from a layman's, because I definitely am a layman, that's all I see though. Just the kills are neck and neck, but you guys, especially you, always can see 20, 30 minutes into the future. Like usually when I'm playing, you say we're gonna lose. What do you see? What do you see?
That's just like a natural
Show us your clairvoyance.
inclination.
I made fun of myself. You don't need to make fun
of
me. I'm just setting you up.
Well, I mean, it's a 4K advantage right now for Curse.
Right.
But the concern is that Karthus is just going to, wreck them in team fights if Karthus can get in the middle of the fight. So it's hard to say. M5, other than Karthus, they don't really have enough damage compared to Curse. Curse has a lot more damage and fight control, even with the fact that there's Heimerdinger. And you usually look at Heimerdinger as a weakness. I actually think that, like you were saying, Curse is actually in a great advantage right now because they do have the initiation with Ashe. They can try and pick people off. They can say, all right, let's get this kill here, and they can kite. So they get to pick and choose the battles. They get to pick and choose the tempo. So really, I feel like Curse needs to make a mistake in order to lose this game right now, because it's just they get to control the tempo of the game.
Yeah. And that is the danger too. With going up against an Ashe, it's one of the if not the best ultimate in the game. I mean, it goes across the entire map. It's huge stun. And especially if that thing somehow hits the back line, if that thing hits Karthus or Ezreal, it's done. It's a one fight.
Yeah, and that's really going to come into the position that M5 has, and keeping the front line, especially with Udyr, in the right spot, and having Shen able to come in to hold down things for just a little while at least. But like we see so far, Curse is doing a great job of taking down the objectives away from M5. M5 is really just needing to play a defensive role and not lose too much in this mid game. And then, like you're talking about before, if Karthus gets fed for the late game, it doesn't really matter. Alex is just going to carry everyone else.
It is interesting though what Shen's going to be able to do, because split pushing maybe, but really he got tanky really quickly. He went for the fast Sunfire, and then he's going for the Randuins as well. So that's he's really just going to look to dive right into the middle of their team and then shut down all of their damage with the slow.
Nice.
Another great Gosu Pepper assassination there.
You got to make plays. You have to make plays at this point, and that was.
Oh, is he gonna die?
Oh, nuts.
There's those turrets.
There's them turrets.
Still worth it.
But you also here you have Ashe being forced to use the ult, but it's like so cool. I mean, does he get this here? Yeah. Wow.
That is a lot.
That's quite a bit.
A lot of damage.
Ashe is pretty squishy though.
Can you see what he's built so far?
So he's got the Magic Pen boots, Rabadons, and Rod of Ages.
Wow.
That much damage, and I'm sure he's I think he's got the level 2 in the ult too, at the very least.
Yeah, he's is he 16? 14 maybe.
We're a little far.
We're a little far, yeah.
At this point.
Like, it was like the one.
But yes,
I want to just like walk right up. It's just like after they go all the way to the screen. He's 16.
He is 16.
Level 3 ult.
But
That's all real.
Ash was caught out of position.
Nope,
that was.
No.
Sit down.
No
Sit
grab
down.
ass.
I was
No grab ass.
just kidding. I'm gonna let you sit on my hand.
Curse, they need to, not allow themselves to get caught out though. They need better ward coverage. I think that's partially. I'm assuming Diamond Proximity doesn't have oracles, so I don't know. But I don't know. Really, because Curse is such a structured team, because they can pick and choose fights with the Ashe, they can't afford to have Ashe get caught out of position there. But M5 is kind of putting pressure on the map to pull them around.
Are you surprised at this point that no one is just trying to push down a lane all the way, or are they still?
Well, Karthus can stall off pretty easily, so it's
Yeah.
kind of difficult to push against Karthus. And it's 25 minutes in. This is like about when they're going to look for it.
Yeah, so we are 25 minutes into this game. We're talking about some of the tendencies that M5 has had relating to this game specifically. Is there any other topics that we want to kind of bring up that we're looking to see from M5 in IPL 5?
They were made famous over in Kiev for that Shyvana jungle. Then they stopped using it for a while, like games like this. But now it's starting to come back. But remember too that when IPL 5 comes in, that's when the Season 3 changes are going to be in effect. I'd like to continue seeing the Shyvana jungle. It's interesting. It's crowd pleasing. I don't know. We'll see what the jungle changes bring though.
Lee Sin every single game.
Yeah.
Do you think the jungle changes are going to help the style that Diamond Prox brings to the table, or is it just going to?
I think it's going to be neutral, because I think with the impending jungle changes, because right now the meta is GP10 junglers, except for Diamond Prox. He just still plays whatever the hell he likes because he always gets the kills and he always gets fed. Except in this game. But basically, what it's supposed to do, from what I understand, is that if you decide to stay in the jungle and don't go into lanes, you're not going to fall as far behind. It shouldn't affect his gameplay. What it should affect, though, is that if you see an enemy jungler who comes late to the party, they're not there to defend the lanes, they're going to be delegated to staying in their own jungle.
Relegated?
They're not going to be relegated. Delegated.
Sorry, that's all I got.
Oh,
'cause I
eliminated,
can't correct you
maybe.
on anything else.
I'm just, my English too bad.
That's why
I think what it is that I don't think enemy junglers are going to fall as far behind, but he's still going to be a dominant force.
Okay.
I think the thing, I think M5's kind of picked up a lot from the World Championships. I think that, they've always been really aggressive with the mid and jungle coordination with elixirs and Diamond Prox, but I think they were kind of surprised seeing like Type A Assassins, how they would, like 4-man gank bot lane, for instance. Put a lot of pressure all around the map. We saw a lot of roaming out of the top lane, which hasn't really happened a lot in the past. And so I think that's going to factor more into their gameplay. We've seen recently them doing like some lane swaps where they would send their bot lane, top. They would try and get some ganks. Like we'll see like a level 4 gank with Diamond Prox into the 2v1 lane. So I think there's going to be more coordination that way, because one of the biggest weaknesses for M5 is if you take the pressure off of the top jungle and you put it on the bottom. If you can get successful ganks in the bot lane, they kind of tend to leave Genja and Gosu Pepper on their own in the bot lane. So that's, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they kind of respond after losing to Type A Assassins. I do like, though, how Alex Ishii's kind of been running. He runs really sustained damage champions, like Katarina, Evelyn, these champions that the longer the fight goes on, the better they do.
Wow.
And that's kind of something that M5's always done, is they pick champions that the longer the fights go on, they can just continue to win further and further. Like Karthus, Karthus is just a generally strong late game champion. That's not like an M5 specialty at all. Honestly, I can't even remember the last time I've seen him play Karthus.
Is Gosu Pepper like a ridiculously aggressive support?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes he is.
Because
He will take kills all the time, and the team is
And kill secured.
It is incredible. I'm watching him go for stuff that I mean.
And
Well,
that feels exactly
God,
Wow.
that was
Like,
a
wow.
Look at it, he got the credit on that
God.
shutdown. I was like, no, shit,
God.
you can't have this. It's
That is
mine.
incredible.
The Sona that he's really well known for, at least, synergizes really well with the composition that James was talking about, because it will keep that fight lasting a little bit longer. You could reset with the crescendo, you can back off if you need to, or you can just use it as the initial engagement as well.
Yeah.
It just gives you a lot of flexibility, and just his
Sona was his
mobility
number one
positioning
for a
is
long
amazing.
time too. Sona was his number one support for a long time too.
And it's having a pretty big resurgence in general in the meta. So
Yeah, it's just all over the
a lot of
world
that
because
IPL 5.
we've seen a lot of Blitzcrank come on back. You've seen teams like, well, I was going to say Mono, but now they're Fear. They've been bringing that Morgana support, Zyra support popped up in the Asia meta. It's supports in general are just getting more aggressive.
Gonna win though. Yeah. No, I mean the supports have been more aggressive. I think it's because the lane harass was nerfed for a long time. It was supports like Janna would be really strong.
He just ran from them and then took the jungle. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I think he knew he was
That was
going
trolling.
I was like, if you're gonna take me down, I'm taking something with me.
That was
Like,
so trolling.
like I want my money
doesn't
back.
matter if it's a golem.
I don't care. even if it was like a small wraith, he would have been happy with that. It's like I don't. Hey, you may have killed me, but I got your small
And
wraith.
those
was
little
also hoping
advantages
he
that
could jump
Diamond
back.
Prox takes,
Right.
that's what adds
Yeah.
up over the
It does,
period
it does.
of the game. It makes a huge difference. Like it's 19-19 right now, so it's extremely close. It could go either way, and
Yeah.
gold can actually. Well,
Yeah, man, you gotta put those
Not
pennies.
realistically.
You gotta put those pennies in the jar. You have to, whenever you can.
Well, one concern, I mean, M5 is
in the
just, I don't know, their late game is so strong. They've always been a really strong late game team. Even though they put on a lot of pressure early game, they always have, kind of a tanky lineup that's has a lot of sustained damage late game. And at this point, having the Baron buff, the concern is going to be whether or not Curse has enough damage to kill anyone. Because Kale's a short-range champion, Ashe doesn't have the highest damage for an AD carry. Zin's going to have to dive into the middle of them, so that's not going to happen. And I don't know, at that point, having the Shen ultimate to protect Karthus with that Baron is really dangerous.
But this is something that we've seen from Curse before, and this is also really common with the Nunu support too. With the Blood Boil, and now Nunu has the Zeke's Herald. Ashe is like a pretty much like 2.2, 2.3 attack speed. She's nearly maxed, which is ridiculous in the late game. It's like not even just in this game, like just in general in any game. How do you deal with someone like that?
Oh, and I mean, kind of like we talked about, Darien, he really aggressively likes to dive the back line. Same thing with Karthus. Both Karthus and Shen can dive into the back line and really disrupt the AD and their kind of damage. So it's, I don't know, it makes things really difficult for Ashe. She doesn't have the mobility like Ezreal in order to, get away from that in order to avoid it. So it's like 4 lay wastes from Karthus will kill Ashe. And
But she does have the ultimate.
yeah, no, she has the ultimate, and the key is to keep them separate. They're actually going for they're just deciding to
Trade.
race this. This might turn into a race though, because M5 they have to kind of decide. No, they did recall, so they recognize that it would it wasn't in their favor, and Curse is actually in a great position here.
That dragon that they took just a moment ago, was M5 taking that dragon to force an engagement on the objective, or did they just take it just because they knew they could?
I think it was just because they knew they could. They had the Baron, and it's kind of one of those things. They know that they can't push in against Curse because they can stall pretty easily. So that you just kind of look around the map, what can you take? And Curse did a really good job of responding to it.
We also see that there's not the best ward coverage coming out from M5. Is this something that they're so comfortable with forcing the team fights that they don't really need as much ward coverage as we see from like some of the Asian teams? Or is that just this game particularly?
Yeah, I don't know. It is. I think it's partially kind of what you're saying is that at this point in time they know they're sticking together as a team. Part of it has to do with the fact that Nunu had an Oracles for a really long time, so they didn't have any wards during that time. But yeah, I think you're right. It's mostly that they're looking to just group right now.
And they still have only taken 1 tower at this point.
Yep,
Yeah,
one.
Right?
Yeah, they haven't pushed really aggressively. They're just looking to farm.
Meanwhile, there's 6 towers down for a fight like this. So they're
Including an inhibitor turret.
including an inhibitor turret, which is really
wow.
bad.
It's a bit early for that, but
Well, they're front loading damage.
Yeah.
They want to scare Curse.EU into backing off, and
So
because
they
they
can-
realize that if they get caught, there's so much damage already on you. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much a done deal. And also, that's indicative of Karthus. If he gets into a bad situation, it's like, well, I already used my ult. I might as well, just dive in and try and suicide and try and get a kill, which wasn't necessary there. They forced them back. They got the tower. They got what they wanted, and 2 kills on top of it.
right.
I think one of the coolest things about M5 and team fights is that you saw there Shen, he died pretty early, but any tanky champion late game, if it's 5v1, they're going to die pretty quickly. The key to making a champion, kind of last a little bit longer to be tankier, and with Darius in particular, is to prevent the damage dealers from getting off as much damage as they would like. So M5, they're always really good about keeping kiting out short range champions, so they're just keeping right out of the range of like Xin and Kale. So you saw in that fight, they weren't really doing a lot. They were kind of sitting back and not really in the fight, and then forcing the long range champions to kind of have to run. So like Ashe, forcing Ashe back where she's in an uncomfortable situation.
So how come we didn't get that that trolley jungle in top 5 fails? Because that was incredible. How did you miss
the trolley
that?
jungle? Which trolley jungle?
The trolley jungle. I actually don't even recall who it was that just took golems.
Yeah.
He died. That wasn't. He died.
Yeah, fails.
Yeah,
top
cut
5
off the
fails.
death.
No, he was trying to get out. They had him trapped, and he leaped up so he could maybe, if they all ran up to get him, he would be able to leap back down.
Oh. Ashe
So
just
hence
missed it, yeah.
fails. It failed.
It's all right, fine.
You missed it. You missed it.
It's a 2-month-old
He got
clip.
the goal and it was a
All right.
success.
Yeah.
So-
Definitely top 5 play.
I haven't seen this, but I'm gonna say M5 is gonna get an ace and push down mid. That's how they're gonna win.
Yeah, no, that's what they want to do is with their team comp, because they know that they're going to stall underneath turrets. They actually probably could wait long enough where they could just dive underneath the turret and kill them under a turret, but that's actually a good point.
Yeah, but also keep in mind that M5, they have Karthus, they have Shen, they have Udyr. Like the longer the game goes on, Karthus is going to get more damage, and Shen and Udyr are just going to get infinitely more tanky as the game goes on. Frozen Heart, Sunfire, the Shen finished with Randuin's, and what's it called? DFG, Athenes.
They'll pretty much be able to
so
eliminate
much.
anyone that Karthus gets near, which with Karthus you can put him in the middle of the
Right.
fight and that's fine.
Yes,
That's going to
yeah.
be very bad for Ashe. The team composition for Curse.EU, it's been doing really well so far in the game, but the problem is that Kale can only keep Ashe alive so long.
Right.
And Nunu the blood boils really needs to be on the entire fight for it to actually have a good effect.
Yeah.
So the composition from M5 is just really going to start taking over now that we're moving into the pretty late game.
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
and I think there's also the point where Heimerdinger is really just starting to become ineffective. He does throw the turret. He shoots the missiles and then he waits. He shoots the missiles and then he waits. It's pretty much like the turrets aren't going to be doing.
Yeah, you drop turrets
much.
and the other team just decides to go to a different lane. So
Right.
They've got flexibility at this point in the game, so you can just back off. Yes, you can stall one lane, but you can't stall all 3.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Curse.EU in this game for a second. I know we're supposed to be talking about M5, but what are they thinking and what are they doing right now? Because we've been concentrating on, are they trying to group the same way?
Well, there's a Baron inhibitor right now, so they want to try to get into it. They also don't want to allow M5 to get Baron, because if M5 gets Baron, that's pretty much a push to at least an inhibitor down, which would be the game right after that.
Right.
So they need to keep M5 distracted, and that's a very difficult task to do against M5.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they're trying to do that, and then also eventually get to the point where they can start to whittle down that inhibitor.
Yeah, and if M5 gets the Baron, then all the poke from Heimer's missiles, Ashe volleys, Kale, everything, just the regen is just going to be too high, and M5, the poke becomes completely ineffective.
So, I mean, for the last 2 or 3 minutes, it's been mostly positioning in mid.
Right.
And again, I keep seeing these, them going for the objectives and I think it's trying to force fights, but they may just be able to take it, the bullying. But how is that going to change the poke in the middle, other than, what you just said with it minimizing damage, mitigating damage? How much push potential do they have after they take a Baron?
It depends on how many people they take out, which here may actually be quite a few. If they take out like one critical member, they got Nunu. He's not super critical.
Well, he's 25% of the damage that Ashe is going to do.
He is, though. That is true. That is absolutely true.
So part of what happens when you get the Baron, buddy, is they already have the shields. They have the heal from Sona. They have the shield on both Udyr and Shen, and they're both really tanky. But once they have the Baron, you get a lot of HP regen, and so it'll let them walk up and just tank the turret for a little bit. So before you can tank the turret, you're at the whim of the opponent. They're going to be able to kill the minions, and you're counting on the minions to tank, but they're not lasting very long. But then Shen and Udyr can start to tank the turrets and then walk back a step, heal up. So that's kind of what the Baron gives them.
That's all right there, which actually really nice change, but I think that was a bit of a wasted ult from KL too, because that ult's supposed to, they just should be recognizing that the primary source of damage now that we're in the late game is Ashe.
Yep.
And
yeah, 2 seconds in a team fight is very different than 2 seconds in a 1v1.
Right, and there's really nothing to be gained by making Heimer invulnerable for 2 seconds. Like you get one more missile attack, and then that's it. You're gonna die. So it was a bit of a wasted effort there.
Yeah, so that all spawned with Kale moving back. She had to return to spawn, and that left the opening for M5.
Yeah.
They seized the opportunity, went for Baron, and that's pretty much going to be an inhibitor after that.
Right.
Able to take down Ghost of Pepper. Pretty good job by Curse.EU, but they really needed to take down one of the carries if they wanted to defend this.
But you saw that, I mean, there's kind of always this question about M5, and it's like with all top teams, or if you look at like in other sports, Tiger Woods, everyone always talks about the allure of Tiger Woods and how he's like the greatest player ever, and how it throws off your opponents, how mentally they can't handle it. And here, the past 5 minutes, it was a very even game for a long time. M5 has a slight advantage, but Curse, the past couple of minutes, there hasn't been a single, compelling fight. Like they just keep on running at them, getting caught out of position. And so the entire thing to me looks like they just mentally got in their own heads. They were like, shit, M5 is so good, we're done, we can't do anything against them. So they just kind of like, I don't know, they were in their own heads. I think that's kind of an issue that M5, because they're this dominant European team. They have for the longest time been invincible, essentially. And so they get in their opponent's heads at some point, and you saw Curse at the end. They just kind of they didn't even put up a fight. Understandably
too, though, because M5 is so good at finding the opportunity and then seizing it instantly, just like we see out of these strong Asian teams as well, where they knew they had a split second to go for Baron, they went for it. After they got Baron, they pushed down the middle until they got the inhibitor. Once they got the inhibitor down, as soon as they knew that, they broke Shen off and sent him to the bottom lane, because if that attack failed, they would still have Shen pushing up, and they would still do pretty well from there and be able to turn around and be able to take something beneficial from it. So the discipline coming out from this Moscow team is just incredible. That's something that has pushed them to get so many victories in Europe and on some of these online tournaments as well. But how do you feel that's going to be going into IPL 5, where they're going to be facing these Asian teams like they did in the World Championships?
Well, I mean, M5, they have some of the best late game of any team in the world. I think if you look at the best pure late game teams, if it's an even playing field, CLG.EU has to be in there, because Froggen is really incredible. I think some of the I think CLG.NA is actually pretty good. I think they Double Lift is really strong on some ADs, but I think M5 they I don't know, they're just really aggressive early. They look to pressure things early on, and that usually keeps them even. Like they never really fall behind. There's been times in the past where you see they run kind of a team comp where you would look at it and you go, that team's going to be really weak early in the game. They're not going to be able to do a lot. They have Jax or something like that who's really good later, but maybe not the strongest in the early levels. But somehow because of the pressure they put on their opponents, they're always on the offensive. They never allow themselves to fall in the defensive. That's kind of something where psychologically, once you fall in the defensive, a lot of times it can just suck. Like there's no way to get back into the game. Yeah,
but that's actually something that a lot of the NA teams that M5 has faced up against practice very much. Like CLG.NA, Curse.NA, a lot of those teams, they have very passive play, and that's where this aggressive style really does well with. But all the NA teams come to IPL 5, they're all on the aggressive end. Like Playground's aggressive, Fear's aggressive. Dynamic, when they were still mono, actually knocked out M5 during IPL 4 qualifiers with their aggressive play. So it's gonna be a different beast for M5 here. They're gonna be facing up against a lot of teams that they've never seen before. And they're gonna be like I thought all your teams were passive. This could be a problem.
Well, and we've even seen them hit a little bit of a roadblock in the recent ESL Major Series, EMS, whatever it is, where they fell to alternate, which is going to be in IPL 5 as well. So like you're saying, the play style that they're used to playing against isn't really or their opponents don't really use it anymore. So they need to kind of evolve a little bit. They've got still almost a month to be able to make that happen. Do you think they're going to be able to get what they need for that actual tournament?
Well, without a doubt. M5, as a team, that was one of the big things when they came on from Empire. And Hanover, everyone was blown away by M5 because they just like hardcore train. They lock themselves in a room for the month before a tournament, and all they do is play LoL. They eat, sleep, and dream League of Legends, and that's that's going to be good against anyone. Like I think they're going to take a lot of lessons from the World Championships. Commit some of that early fluid style into their already aggressive early style. And they're gonna pound out a lot of scrims and really be ready.
I have this to say. He was using a lot of innuendo in describing M5 just then. Liquid and pounding out, awesome.
Great.
I just want to do one thing at the end of all these shows. At the end of all these shows, why don't we go ahead and go through and summarize what, because I don't have any insight, but summarize the three things.
Yes, buddy.
The three things that before you make fun of me, the three things that you think make M5 a contender for IPL 5.
I just want to point out real quick, and then we'll go into the three things. So that's a great point. Thanks, Buddy here. He's awesome. I know we all love Buddy, and we wanted to have him on last second, and he's still working and putting a lot of effort into learning competitive LoL and stuff like that. So I really appreciate you guys.
LoL was the hardest game I've ever played, and that includes Minesweeper. All right.
Minesweeper's pretty rough. It's pretty rough.
Especially when you get to the point and you're like, the board is locked, and you're like, I don't know which one to press now. There's no logical conclusion.
So then you just go behind the line and randomly click the bomb. Yeah, that happens to me all the time. Usually Minesweeper, I go 40 wide, 5 bombs. 40 by 40, 5 bombs.
Kevin, he said that he's a professional Minesweeper player.
Let's get back to it. Three things that you think are going to make M5 a contender for the IPL 5 glass trophy, that crystal trophy that we have.
elixirs in the mid lane. He goes champions that are usually really strong in the early game and also have high sustain damage, and what that means is he can pressure the jungle along with Diamondprox. And Diamondprox is really aggressive as an invasion jungler, but elixirs, the pressure that he puts in the mid lane, and because he'll move up to join Diamondprox in jungle, that makes their invasion that much stronger. So that's a big key. Diamondprox is the second one, because a lot of it really comes down to elixirs and Diamondprox, in my opinion. The fact that it goes so aggressively for these invasion tactics, and he doesn't play passively on the jungle. He's a jungler that forces wards. He forces the enemy team to play on their edge, to play defensively, because they're always, kind of in fear of what Diamondprox can do. And then the last thing is the fact that Genja and Gosu Pepper, they're a very strong safe bottom lane, which has allowed M5 to put all the aggression in the top lane. Darion's huge as well, but I'll say my third thing is Gosu Pepper and Genja. I don't know if I've ever seen them lose the lane, and that's considering that M5 almost never helps the bot lane. They always focus on the rest of the map, I think, for the most part.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I think the most important thing that I see out of a lot of it is team cohesion. They've been together for so long that they're actually able to push the meta for what we currently see in the game. And with the new masteries for Season 3, with a lot of the new champions that are coming out that haven't really been used in competitive play, I think M5 has a clear advantage over a lot of the European and the American teams as well, as far as being able to innovate in time for IPL 5. So that's going to be point one, is the innovation that they'll be able to pull out. I guess the start of that was about the team cohesion. They've been the same lineup for a very long period of time, longer than most other League of Legends teams. And with that, they're able to do a lot of the jungle timings like you were talking about, but then also have really, really strong team fighting. And that's going to help them when they're going up against the Asian teams, who also are known very well for pretty much acting like one person, one mind throughout the entire time. And then I think the last point is going to be, I don't know, that's tough to decide, actually.
My three would be, first off, you look at the synergy between Darion and Diamondprox. I mean, you've very often we've seen them actually go, like, my favorite combo is the Jax Lee Sin. They work so well together. They can just roam their own mobile gang squad. You also look at Gosu Pepper, number 2. he's a very aggressive support, and I think that's actually going to really help them carry along to keep that aggression up going against a lot of the NA teams, a lot of the Asian teams. But lastly, though, is that M5 is a team that's very hard to ban against. It is impossible to ban out M5 on most of their well-played champs. We're seeing a lot of Zillion bans. Hopefully, we're going to be seeing a lot of Lee Sin bans. Sona bans are definitely warranted. Karthus bans are warranted. Jax bans are warranted. You can't ban them out. They're going to get something that they're amazing at, no matter what.
And that's something that they were highlighting at the World Championships as well, is that you can only focus on one strategy to remove from it because they've got so many more in their playbook that they can just fall back on. I guess going back to my third point, a little bit outside of the game is M5, they've got ridiculous dedication to this. This is their future. They're not planning anything else. Alex's wife supports him in what he does, and that's something that some of the Korean teams don't actually have. They've got the home, which is telling them, don't play video games, go do something else with your life. So having that makes it so that you can just focus that much more on the games and have a little bit more drive keeping you going. So I think that'll be number 3 for me.
My 3.
What are your 3?
Siberia.
Okay.
That's the toughest place on the planet. That's in Russia. Second, their owner went to jail. More badass.
Such a hardcore team.
You better win or they're coming out after you.
Third, KGB. That's it. Those are my 3.
Done.
All the Russians are dangerous. They're dangerous people. The Russians are dangerous. I should have been over here. I don't know why I was over there. I was sorry. I had 3 up. I had
So
these up.
IPL 5 is going to be like an 80s villain movie then?
Yeah, they might just
Vegas.
have guys.
It is in Vegas. It is in Vegas.
Pillows over guns.
We need to do a Rocky montage training video for M5. And
Okay. Will do.
Go Pepper, lifting.
We'll do. You hear that,
bars
Paul?
above his head.
We're making we're gonna make a Rocky training video for M5 during IPL. You're with
down?
it. He's with it.
All right.
Doing it.
Let's see who's gonna who's gonna be on the American contingent then?
Hearts of
Hearts of Fire.
All right. Closing thoughts, anybody?
Before we start, completely going into karaoke mode.
Do you guys want to hold hands and say bye to everybody? We can sing goodbye. You guys want to? Why are you guys holding my hands? This is so stupid. All right.
Teamwork.
Yeah. Yay!
Don't take a picture of this. No.
Yay! All right, Paul.
So I think we're good for now. That was M5. We're gonna be taking a look at all the other teams leading on up to IPL 5. Remember, if you want any more information, remember IGN.com/IPL5. All the teams are going. If you want to buy your tickets, do so now. Check out all the other games we're going to be having there also. And I think we're done. We're
Hit me
good.
up on Twitter for any production changes you want to this show,
I was gonna say-
and we will put them in for the next episode.
This is our first episode of this, so
Yes.
let us know if there's anything in particular you want us to go over with the teams. If there's any thing that we didn't touch on. So
Yep.
yeah.
So who are we going to be focusing on next time? What's the next episode?
I think probably TSM.
TSM? I think we'll be doing TSM next. So hey, TSM.
All right.
Be sure. So be sure to check in with us next time. More than likely going to be going over TSM. And hey, if you have any other comments on the show, if you have any, be sure to let us know. As always, thank you guys.
Bye.